Thanks everyone for joining. I think this is the session around the future of category management and looking at technology. AI, of course, is part of that, and really the value chain. So we'll get to see sort of the first half looking at technology and the second half looking at the value chain. So I'm Matt Langley. I'm the co-chair of the SVP Emerging Technology chapter. I also used to be the co-chair of the Scope 3 chapter, so there's a bit of decarbonising in here. And I am currently also a strategic advisor for a couple of different organisations. Becky, if I hand it over to you to do a short introduction, please.
Sure. Hello, good day, everybody. I'm Rakhi Malik. I'm Vice President Digital Transformation in GEP. Been in the supply chain procurement space now for 30 years. That's what all I have done. So on the both sides of the table, I have been a practitioner as well as building digital pointed solutions and products for our clients and for the entire, supply chain and procurement space. Happy to be part of this discussion, and over to you, Chris.
Yeah, hi there, everybody. So my name's Chris Lowe, and I'm leading the Procurement, Sustainability and Packaging team at Haleon. I've been with the company about 10 years, and most of that time I've been a category director. So Matt and I will be chatting about category strategies and approaches for procurement a little bit later, but really great to see you all, and thank you very much for this opportunity of getting up at 4:30 in the morning, Matt. It's a real pleasure.
Well, our robust discussions we've had, I need an edge. So I'm like, this is a perfect edge. I didn't even create this one. And so if everyone can stop and lean back and maybe even close your eyes, think about a time in the not too distant future where you come into work, you sit at your computer and you open it up, and overnight there's been a number of news and data and information externally and also internally that have all been synthesized and comes through to you. And it talks about category specific or category relevant information. It may talk about a tariff that's coming in that will mean a supplier will be asking for more cost increases. It might be a climate event that's happening that's going to impact one of your company's distribution locations. It could be that you need to look at hedging the US dollar, or that you need a derivative to cover steel prices. And all of that will be synthesized in a way that real-time updates your category strategy. So not doing it once a year, real-time, and being able to then provide recommendations that you can get your AI agents to then go and renegotiate some elements, get the derivative, hedge the currency, and kind of work through all of that. And then you kind of close that area, and then you'll have your purchase request coming in. It'll have a recommendation around whether you accept it, whether you define it, whether you go and renegotiate, and really look to cover all those tactical aspects that you're needing to do. So potentially by 10 or 10:30, you've finished your day, and you're doing it a lot better than you are today with all that information. You don't have to read a huge amount of documents. It's all synthesized there for you. So that's going to be the first part. Rakhi will take us through where GEP is now and where they see the near future, aligning that vision as talked about. And then the second half is really where Chris and I are going to focus on, well, you could be in a situation where you get given additional categories and then you're managing them tactically as well. Or what we're wanting to discuss is, what if you take the whole category to the next level and you start looking at the entire value chain or supply chain? And so if you've been good and the category's been fairly mature, 10 years ago you would have run an RFP, you would have saved maybe 20 to 30%, then 3 or 4 years later you would have saved 5%, and the last one you ran you probably were trying not to have a cost increase. If you're wanting to squeeze further efficiencies and savings and carbon and resilience and sustainability, to that next level, you're going to have to look at the entire value chain. You're going to have to negotiate and engage across multiple tiers in your supply chain. You will struggle with that today because you won't have the transparency and the tools to do it, but as we're going to find out, they're not far away. So really what we think is that you should be the superstars of the future, as Melissa said in the opening session. We think procurement and category managers especially are going to be the superstars of the future. You will be able to do a huge amount, and really supply chains are the key element of global commerce, and we can make a big impact by really engaging through that value chain. So, eyes open, let's jump into it. Raki, if I'll pass it over to you.
Sure, thank you, Matt. Can I have my slides, please? Okay. So, so like Matt said, and GP being a consulting services and a technology company, we have seen that how the role of the category manager itself has changed from past to the modern times, where, sustainability, diversity, compliance, market intelligence or the real-time analytics and actions become very, very important. So traditional category management prioritize probably more on cost reduction, efficiency, or supplier security kind of thing. But adding a sustainability shifts the focus to a long-term value creation, which includes ESG. Now, sustainable category management requires analyzing the entire life cycle of products from a raw material sourcing to disposal to minimize emissions, waste, and social harm, while still maximizing the resource efficiency. So that's what we're saying, that how the entire role has shifted, and how how hence technology and the art of possible with AI, etc., can support in those enhanced role of a category manager. And what happens is, end of the day, the teams have become more leaner, and yet the efficiency of the teams need to increase. Next slide, please. So if you see, given that, these are the kind of the new role of a category manager that, you have been experiencing, what are the real challenges when you actually want to work on those roles? Like, there is a lack of end-to-end visibility on the data. There are slow responses to changing market conditions. There's a lack of alignment with the complex business objectives, and we'll talk about in a bit. Inadequate cost understanding and price prediction. The slow and ineffective at the category creation and maintenance in the entire value chain and the life cycle. So this impacts the lack of strategic approach and hence a lack of execution. So these are the real challenges. But from a technology perspective, also there are limitations that we have seen, because most of the organizations will have different products, tools, and data sets across globally for spend, contracts, etc., and they're all working in isolation. There's a minimum action-oriented kind of a workflow. IT dependency for workflow and data changes, and focus only on structured data. Whereas for category management, with the sustainability hat and with the all the new responsibilities, you need a lot of unstructured data. What's happening globally, what are the news, what is the disruptions happening. There's a lot of even unstructured data. It's not just numbers. Next slide, please. So given this, we have seen that now if you see on the business priorities that we were talking about, business priorities are drive savings, maximize value and ROI, understand and navigate through the risk, and then strategic activities and innovation, and drive all these projects through innovation and strategic activities. The supplier relationship management itself has evolved so much. It now includes supplier collaboration, sustainability, compliance, risk, everything that you may think about. Now, when we were imagining that from a technology perspective, how do we support the category managers from a life cycle perspective? What the things are the building blocks they would need to do all this very efficiently and quickly, like the way Matt said. So the life cycle requirement that we came up with was First and foremost, we have to integrate the data silos, then guide the category strategies through agents, AI, etc. Streamline the execution and monitor it at a real time. That's most effective. There's a big disruption happening and you get to know much later than it's already gone. Support decision and collaboration with the suppliers, with your stakeholders, and of course, constantly give benchmarks how to improve it and raise that bar, and optimize the efficiency and achieve sustainable success. So we seen that while we wanted to support on the tools, these are the things that are very, very important to even build, the building blocks to even imagine a tool. Next slide, please. So what were the main visions when we are building a tool for the category managers, which is completely AI enabled? So we are saying it's a AI driven digital hub. Like, Matt said, you imagine you come in the morning and you're getting your 360-degree view of everything possible in a life cycle of a category management. And you are being able to take you seek actionable insights and being able to take action, and also being able to train the agents to take some action on your behalf. So a lot of time saves for you and your team, where there is a productivity increase and you can focus on other supplier relationship management, or on strategic roles. Now the second part of the vision that we saw was that it has to be a cognitive engine that takes in the pointers from internal and external environments, be able to connect it and issue timely recommendation for course adjustment and risk mitigation, all in one orchestrated platform. So imagine there is a risk in a particular country or a particular supplier, you get to know it, then and there, real time, and you're being able to take an action. Now that also makes category managers' life really, really much more efficient, and being able to take the right decisions, real time insights. It's again saves time, but also it's a big thing on the compliance and sustainability and innovative solutioning. The third part that we thought is having a co-pilot kind of a agent for the category manager, who is not only giving you all these insights for and taking actions, but literally walking you through how to even, say, example, develop a strategy by balancing cost, risk, and sustainability objectives. So the way we see is monitoring. For example, I'll say for monitoring supplier performance on sustainability metrics such as carbon emissions, waste reduction, and ethical sourcing practices can happen through this one platform with the 360-degree actionable view. Imagine that these AI-powered tools are now transforming sustainable category management by enabling data-driven decision-making. So it improves efficiency, it enhances alignment with your ESG goals of the organization, as well as on the other side, the suppliers. So AI is providing you real-time insights into changing market conditions, and it is enabling you to take agile decisions which supports the sustainability goal. That's the entire vision of this entire product. Next slide, please. So the way this, I'm just giving a glimpse of how GP's intelligent category management shaped up with all the background that I gave you. So it has got all the external sources. It's got all the GP intelligent data that we have understood over the last 25 years. The intelligence from the brains of the category managers and the consultants, and the internal sources of the client. And the external sources could be anything. It also has a lot of market indices. You can connect with any of the network to get any of the external data. And the best part is it gets all the data, be able to curate it, be able to link it, make sense of it, and then drives towards a standard and structured methodology towards, say, a category strategy identification, or a detailed insights on, we are giving out of the box 200 categories and commodities, detailed insights already as benchmark and other stuff, and we can keep adding to it. Making it very action oriented, that's very important, so that you're able to take action on your contract, on your negotiation, on your supply relationship management, real time 360-degree category view. And it also enables seamless collaboration. That's the major part of this tool, with all the background and understanding that we got of how the category manager's role is evolving and how technology can support. So if you just go to the next slide, please. So the AI agentic framework that we are completely layering the architecture of this tool is, so it's completely completely with the AI agentic framework, of course, where machine learning is required, that is also there. But right from, imagine there are so many sources of data now, external, internal, etc., etc. So the agent is also data crawling and extracting the data. It's generating analytical insights, which is very important for compliance, risk, and other things. Actionable strategy creation, it's supporting which are the co-pilots I was talking about, and it's helping you to collaborate at real time. And the data layer below that I was just talking about, external, internal, customer data, different kinds of data. And then on the left-hand side, you see the category manager, which is the human in the loop, who can continue to, imagine the agent as one of the team members. So the category manager can continue to train and make the agent more and more intelligent. And you have these as supporting you in the entire value chain. So to conclude, what happens is what we have seen, that sustainability is also a major part in this entire thing, because be it risk or be it the sustainability goals or be it compliance, here getting all this in the category management profile becomes very important. So like the way we've seen is, sustainability is just not an here, but it becomes the core part of the entire modern category management add on over. And by leveraging this AI powered tools like intelligent category management from GP and adopting a life cycle approach like the end-to-end approach, organizations can really align with their procurement strategies with the broader ESG goals while still driving innovation and efficiency. That's what we have seen, and that's how this tool has come into being, and all the feedback that we get from clients. So that's all I wanted to talk about, how technology can impact category management and category managers' life. Happy to take any questions. Otherwise, over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Raki. So just a reminder, people, there's a Q&A section. You can put questions in if you have them. Raki, I had one. It feels like, I don't know, over the last month, my chat GPT's got smarter. And I'm not sure whether I've just loaded up some decent documents. I'm at about 200 in the chat I've got. But it feels like writing reports or white papers or something has become easier over the last month or so. So I feel like the AI agents are not far away at all. What's your view, and how would you work with an AI agent?
Yeah, so AI agents is here and now. It's not far away. It's not futuristic. It's here and now. But I would say there are two things from an organizational perspective that we have to consider. One is data security, because it's organization data. It's fine for us to do some personal bit of thing on, on a public domain, internet, chat GPT, completely fine. It gives fantastic results. The moment we come to organizational goals and organization data, we have to be careful of the data security and the domain model. So the agents are more generic. For example, when you wear the hat of, like, say, I'm a sugar category manager, and I know I'm buying from Brazil, and there are different kinds of nuances when I'm buying a sugar. That is there in the mind of a category manager. And that is the intelligence which makes that agent more and more, behave like a category manager. So that part of thing, because like I can tell this confidently, because in our tool, we are not just bringing that agent as a technology and as a feature. Because GP also has the consulting arm for the last 25 years, all that we're doing is procurement. We are trying to bring that intelligence also. So if you're a sugar category manager, then what would your KPIs be? What should your main goals be? How should the agent perform on your behalf? So that's the important thing. And those 200 categories are completely trained on all these nuances of the life cycle of those categories. So that's, I would say, a value add over the normal agent that you see. And plus the in-house data, all the curated knowledge that we have from benchmarking and other perspective, compliance risk, we have also curated it and kind of made those agents uh, more intelligent with this data. So you will also get those kind of prompts and nudging by the agent.
And so how does that work? The original research expected that Gen AI would take someone with a lower level of experience or understanding and be able to take them to like 80% of where an expert would be. And so then you start to question, well, I get paid maybe 5 times more than a graduate. Is that extra 20% really worth the 5 times more that a company is going to pay? So I got a little bit worried, but I've seen the latest research actually saying that no, if you're an expert and you're using AI and a good AI agent, you're now worth 5 times more. You've got 5 times more value than someone with a low experience. Are you finding that as well?
Yes, absolutely. So the agents are here to help us. If we also, all of us as, category managers, as procurement professionals, have to upskill with the AI technology and work with agents as though they are the helping hand for us. And, and that way the entire value of the category manager enhances a lot, because you're working with the agents and, making it more intelligent, giving it more data, and working together as a team. It's not like, the value of the category manager actually enhances if it's adopting AI and being able to work with this agent. And plus the overall enhancement in it's, you're not just doing cost and savings, you're like taking care of the entire value chain, right from a product design to a waste management. Imagine that entire life cycle. So I would feel the category manager's role is enhanced much more, not only from a category management perspective, but working along with the agent and bringing the technology, AI perspective also.
Yeah, perfect. So Chris, imagine all of our wins. We can come up with the craziest ideas and we just ask the AI agent to go and research what would normally take a grad like 3 weeks or something, and they'd come back with something. These guys will do it within an hour or less, a few minutes.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic, world of opportunity. Even the technologies that are available today, we've used them to get insights into our categories, to understand, what are the energy usage of making a particular material and things like this, and how do you abate those? The insights that you can get from these tools are fantastic. And, if we're still at the beginning of the evolution and sophistication of these tools, then they will be super powerful in years to come. Totally agree.
Yeah. Cool. So so category manager, back to them. 10:30. They've had their second coffee. They're sitting down. And they're like, okay, now what? What's your view around if a category manager says, right, I want to take apart this entire value or supply chain? What's some recommendations from you around where to start or what to do?
Well, in that scenario that you're describing, you're really enabling procurement to become that strategic function of looking at the future, looking at the categories in a really strategic way, which is, procurement's super strength. And as we think about category strategies, sustainability is bringing so much. It's bringing that extra complexity to to what we need to be thinking about, and it does potentially change our category strategies. If we look at where we need to be in 5 and 10 years time for our kind of interim targets 2030 or for our net zero goals, there is a huge transformation that is needed across our supply chains. And we need to be thinking about what is the way in which we get there. Now, in some cases, that might be right into the details of how you decarbonize a supplier and their operations and their fossil fuel usage and other things. But in other spaces, that's how do you reimagine your category? So it might be working with the business, looking at demand management, looking at how do you reinvent the product or the things that you're buying to really drive circularity, support nature, sustainable sourcing programs, and so on. So there are so many aspects, and this is where procurement collaborating with the business, with the sales teams, with the R&D teams can be very powerful to make sure that we're looking at this holistically, and that that spare time is used usefully to make sure that we're optimizing and driving the business forward in the right direction.
Yeah, for me, having getting into procurement 20 plus years ago, I was also studying sustainability, and I always liked the sustainability lens to add it on to my category strategies or negotiation. At the core, sustainability is about doing more with less. The challenge is that there isn't one big thing you do that will solve it all. There's 100 small things that you do that solve it. And so there's a lot of little things that you tweak here and there. And I think some category managers, in fact, all, including myself, it's too hard sometimes to tweak everything. But I've found some, like I've got a very good example when I worked at CBRE as the real estate company and facilities management, that the category managers had come up with ionized water for cleaners. So instead of using bulk chemicals, lots of plastics, you can use ionized water on site, a much smaller carbon footprint, and also 20% cheaper. But CBRE, being the B2B and sitting between it, seemed to struggle to convince the clients and the procurement teams and the HSE teams at the clients to make this change, because they wanted to smell the clean, I guess, or like smelling bleach, even though we know it's not good for us. But if you could, as a category manager or a B2B company, if you could work with your client and make some change in the requirements, it reduces the client's emissions, it reduces your emissions as CBRE, and it reduces the supplier's emissions. So there's a lot of winning coming through that, to your point, in working through the collaboration with the different groups. And that does take time, but there's a lot of benefits being able to do that.
Yeah, totally agree. Often those breakthroughs do require that wider vision and a bit of research to really understand what's going on. As you probably know, Halion, we're a big manufacturer of toothpaste. We own brands like Sensodyne, Aquafresh, and Parodontax. And silica is a big material that we use within those toothpastes. And there's a really interesting one in there that I didn't know about originally, but it's a great example of that sort of totally new way of thinking about how do you manufacture, how do you buy, how do you produce the outcome that you're looking for. So silica is traditionally made from limestone and chemical process, precipitation, and then drying of the silica. But actually, what we've understood, but it's not through Halion's research, but is that actually, if you burn the husks of rice, so rice husk ash has a 90% silica content within it. And so this is a waste product that actually has 90% of the raw material that you need, that we've been taking out of the ground, for many years. And so and as most people listening will appreciate, if you use a waste product as your input, that is coming in with probably a 0 to very low carbon footprint. And so when you get a radical solution like that, it's absolutely beautiful that you can drastically redesign your supply chain. You can drastically reduce your carbon footprint and look after the planet at the same time.
Yeah, when I was at CBRE, again, we had a category manager that looked after waste. And when I was running all the sustainable procurement, we were trying to convince them or work them through the circular economy aspect, but really to shift the thinking that waste isn't just a cost category, it can be a revenue generating category. Your waste can be someone else's input, right? I mean, that's a great example. There's lots of examples out there, and yeah, and I'm a non-executive director of this circularity furniture provider, and basically just taking furniture off large corporates, doing some repairs and maintenance, and breaking it down, and then leasing it on or selling it on. There's lots of examples of if you're a category manager and you open up a little bit more, there's all these examples out there that you could look to be leveraging. With that extra time, you can actually have time to do it now.
Exactly. And, you know, even if there isn't a breakthrough solution like this, you know, what we advocate is really looking at, you know, those at a fairly macro level. You know, what are the big elements that you need to be addressing in your category strategy? So thinking about, if we're talking about carbon, first of all, you know, where is the carbon coming from in the main elements of your supply chain? How are you going to be addressing that? You know, the standard elements, if there's no easy answers, is, you know, renewable electricity. How are you going to take out the fossil fuels in your heat processes? You know, and replacing that obviously with heat pumps or energy efficiency measures, new technologies. But there may also be elements around, you know, making sure that you have full circularity. So, you know, in the plastic supply chain, it's classic. We've had to look at our packaging formats to make sure that all of them can be recycled. And, you know, that is not something that is a straight, it's a different sort of flavor of category strategy, right? It's not just how am I going to work with my supplier? That is a complete redesign of the formats of our products. And so in those cases, we're working with R&D, we're working with the sales and commercial groups. And in fact, we've worked quite a lot with corporate sustainability, because it's not only, and if we take the toothpaste example again, you know, and Colgate have been doing similarly, that we have worked with the industry to make sure that the recycling infrastructure understands that nowadays a toothpaste tube can be recycled, and so that the AI that is used in the recycling facilities is recognizing that and putting it into the correct waste stream. And so, you know, when you've got a change like that, there's a whole different range of stakeholders and elements of your category strategy that is going to facilitate the circularity of your products and the redesign, and making sure that, you know, that is something that the customers and consumers want at the end of the day.
Yeah, cool. So we've got a question that's coming from Abhishek around how can we balance, there's two questions, I'll cover the first one. How can we balance the increased cost of supply chain sustainability with our cost savings targets and category strategy? So with that example, Chris, you just went through, are you finding cost increases is the first thing? Because to me, that's like, everyone says there's cost increases, and if you go from diesel to biodiesel, there is, so sometimes you do have the increase. But again, coming to my view around sustainability, doing more with less, often it's not that much more expensive. The payback might be slightly longer. What's your view on that?
In general, there are still plenty of opportunities out there that can drive sustainability and drive cost at the present time. You know, there will be, as we get further down this path, there will be some more expensive things that we need to do. But, you know, you were asking that on that toothpaste tubes example, did that increase the cost? You know, I think there was a very tiny increase as we sort of first started that journey, but with the economies of scale, it's come to pretty much cost parity at this point. So no, there hasn't been an increase in cost as we've made our toothpaste tubes recyclable. So, you know, and as we look at the decarbonisation levers that are out there at the moment, you know, renewable electricity, well, if you need to buy a REC, it might, or an EAC, it might add a little bit to your cost today. But there are also lots of ways of getting hold of renewable electricity, buying into PPAs, putting on-site solar, all of these things that actually generally give you access to renewables for the same cost or lower. So there's plenty of opportunities out there. The other thing that we're working with a number of partners in the industrial heat processes space, and there are a number of companies like Johnson Controls, Renew Energy, that will make those investments for you and charge you back heat as a service. And that's a really neat way of getting the changes that you need and reducing the cost of each unit of heat to the same or less than what you're paying today for natural gas or fossil fuels that you're using for your processes. So the market has been very creative in the way in which we can structure these things to make them attractive, to make it a win-win for companies that are implementing these types of changes.
Yeah, let's face it, it starts de-risking things as well, right? Like the German manufacturers were heavily reliant on Russian gas, right? And the change that came in there from the geopolitical, I mean, that's risky. So being so heavy on one provider for your industry, it's interesting. So his second part of the question was, how can we effectively measure the set KPIs amid market fluctuations due to geopolitical and supply chain challenges? So here, let me provide a comment. And Raki, maybe you want to jump in here as well, because I see that technology is going to be doing a huge amount to help us around the market fluctuations. You've not just got geopolitical aspects, you've got regulation aspects, you've got tariffs coming potentially in, then out, and then out, never quite sure. But I do also see that over the next couple of years, we're going to have to reset our supply chains. And so why wouldn't you want to reset your supply chain to a lower carbon, a more sustainable, more resilient, lower risk supply chain? And so you're kind of ready for the future. And if you want to do that, then you need the data, and then you need to do the investment in the right procurement technologies and things, right? But that'll set you up. So it's not a time to stop and wait for getting some clarity. It's actually the time to invest, right?
Absolutely, Matt. Absolutely. Right from a supplier selection to relationship management to all the other external data on making sustainability, even matrix as part of the core, value chain for the supplier relationship management. Imagine there's so many sources of data, and it's not just bringing in the data in one place with AI, but connecting the data and making sense out of it and giving a recommendation. That's very key, because if I as a category manager can go to probably 20 places and see the data. Imagine the time it takes. Imagine the changes that happen so quickly in things like indices and conditions. There's a news. So by the time you finish researching in 20 places and then trying to make sense of it, sometimes even with all the right intentions, we are not being able to be there at the right time to take a decision. So technology has made that possible. AI has made that possible. And especially with the LLM and generative AI, where you can bring in structured and unstructured data. I will emphasize because it's very important. You see that you're bringing in data from multiple, even a news, for example, there could be just a news, something happened in the night yesterday in a location where your main key supplier is existing, and you don't know about it. So you don't know what you don't know. And imagine that you come to the tool and this news is there, and that is actually disrupting 5 contracts that you have, because that supplier is going to supply you.
Shut down due to a fire and shut down for 24 hours.
Yeah. So one is bringing in the data, which is very much possible now. And how do you bring in data? Because then you need a data platform that understands all the different kinds of data, being able to connect the data through AI, make sense out of it, and be able to work with you as a partner. So there are multiple such examples, even from a supplier selection to managing the KPIs to there is any big disruption. How do you go and amend a contract? Because you have to go and renegotiate. There's a big disruption happen. And in this entire thing, we have seen sustainability now has become a core. Even for indices, Matt, there are so many indices, but They are moving for some core commodities constantly. So AI has to constantly predict how is it moving in the next few months, and then you can do a more effective negotiation, for example.
Yeah. Chris, do you want to add anything to that? So how do you effectively measure KPIs for market fluctuations?
Well, I think Raki's given a good response. I don't have too much more to say on that, but it is a very dynamic world today, and so that's where the tools and systems can be fantastic in making that balance and keeping on top of all the things that are going on. The one thing that sort of I can give a little quick plug to carbon pricing. We did a great session on it earlier on in the 24-hour World Sustainable Procurement Day, but that's another way that you can, as prices are fluctuating, as all of these tariffs, international changes and geopolitics are happening, to how do you value sustainability with price, and how do you make that balance between the two? And that's another of the nice elements of our carbon pricing, program through the Sustainable Procurement Pledge, to help you to decide how important is price versus how important is, in this case, decarbonization in the sourcing decision. So, but those are the only points I've got for that.
Yeah, cool. So, Chris, what would the ideal category manager or category management look like in 10 years' time, and what can you sort of start doing now? Nice, easy one.
Yeah, well, quite. So, I think that category managers are, and look at the community that has been online over this last 24 hours. Procurement is stepping up. I've got the T-shirt on. Procurement is taking control of this. We didn't ask to be the ones to sort out the global sustainability and decarbonization, but we have found ourselves in the hot seat. We are learning fast about all of the different elements that are needed in order to be able to, really drive towards a net zero economy. And we're working with our suppliers and with the business to make it happen. So I think in 10 years' time, the category manager needs to be really up to speed and knowledgeable about all of the aspects of sustainability. I think often people say that sustainability functions are a temporary element, right? This needs to be embedded into everybody's role in the very near future. And so we need to be totally aware of the technologies, of all of the options, looking at how we can drive incremental business by changing to more sustainable formats, what our consumers are really looking for, how we can drive that value to the business, as well as making sure that we're looking after the planet. And as you get in 10 years' time, we're going to be well on the way to that road to net zero. I think that some of the levers will be, there'll be much more technologies out there. We'll be able to see what's there, but at the same time, we're going to be getting to the tough stuff. And we're going to take advantage of the easy levers in the next few years. So in 10 years' time, your category manager is going to be having to really look at what's left, how are we going to mitigate that, what is going on with the planet that is needing the urgent attention at that time.
Yeah, if I reflect on my career and I've changed companies a few times, and I've felt like when I've changed to a new procurement team, often I'm like, I've just gone back 10 years. Well, what is with this procurement team? It's like, what do you mean you don't know what you spend? This is a 2018 at CBRE across your entire organization. What do you mean you don't really have procure to pay platform? How is that possible? I've just come from one. But the procurement or the organizations that you've kind of taken a step back in time haven't seemed to suffer that much with a low maturity procurement team or one that's not really firing on all cylinders. I do feel now, I don't think it's wishful thinking, I do feel now with the AI agents, with the new technologies. And let's face it, procurement's we've been happy with very mediocre technology for a long time, right? But if we start demanding the latest technologies and backbones and upstream orchestration and best of breed and things coming in, then you can really go after those 100 small savings aspects that you wouldn't have been able to do anymore. And there should be a decent shift between those that are really firing all cylinders and make a big difference versus those that don't know their supply chain, don't know their spend, have the risk there, update your category strategies once a year.
But a bit like you were saying earlier on about how AI can, to an extent, it's a level setter, that the inexperienced companies can get a brilliant head start by using AI. It might enhance the experts, but it's narrowing that difference between the immature and the mature companies. And so I think, a lot of the commercials in 10 years time, a lot of the commercials are going to be done for you, especially as you're saying on the simple, transactional categories. It will be very straightforward. And as we were discussing, that's what then enables the procurement professionals to look at the more strategic elements. There clearly will be, as you think about your strategies associated with your big commodities, it's no longer about just optimizing price, negotiating. It's about how you're redesigning that whole supply chain to make it optimal, and that is clearly something that an AI tool isn't going to be able to do automatically for you. So I think that's the big differentiator of a mature and an immature procurement function that is true today and will probably still be true in 10 years' time.
But I mean, if you're a category manager of some raw materials, you sort of know that it'll be good to hedge maybe currency or put some OTC derivative in place. You sort of know you should be, but you're like, well, I don't know that much about it. I don't know how to set it up, or and if you've got an AI agent that is cocoa prices are going to go up, or that oil's going to go down, or lubricants going to do this, or you could actually start doing that, right? And so it becomes different from a wishful thinking of I probably should, to a recommendation from the AI data and things saying we recommend hedging it now.
Well, and there are already great tools out there for that today, right? So it's not doing it automatically for you, or at least we don't have that functionality, but tools that are making predictions using AI to say what is likely to be happening to a commodity, should you be hedging, and at what point, and for how long. Those tools are already available.
But maybe underutilized. So we've got another question from Karen. Thanks, Karen, saying great session. Appreciate the feedback already. How do you see the positioning of centralized and decentralized procurement models over the next 10 years? Well, I've been in organizations that have done both over the period I've been there. Chris, I'll let you, do you want to answer this one?
Well, a little bit offbeat of what we've been talking about, but it's a really interesting discussion. And in fact, Haleon has been through exactly this. We've been through a decentralization over the last couple of years to really try to ensure that what we're doing is customized to the different business units and regions, so that our offering can be tailored to that consumer group more locally. And I suppose you would say that if you look at the geopolitics, things tend to be becoming more local and more regional. So if I was to make a prediction, I would say that the direction of travel at the moment is likely to be more decentralized. But it's not to say that there isn't value in the global. And I think it is a balancing act. These things tend to be pendulums, and they overswing and then they come back a little bit. So obviously the trend at the moment is very much to decentralization and sourcing locally. I think that maybe we had gone too far, and as we now put a sustainability lens onto some of the low-cost country sourcing that we've been doing in previous years, we're realizing that actually it wasn't the best thing shipping stuff all over the world, and it actually drove quite a high carbon footprint. And we were sourcing, and unfortunately, in many cases, those low-cost country sources were the ones with the highest carbon emissions associated to their electricity grids. So for a number of reasons, I think there will be that localization, but there's no single answer. There's no right answer for your business. It has to be taken very carefully in the context of your consumers, your business, what are you buying, and all of those different factors. What do you guys think? I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, let me quick comment, and Ricky, I'll hand it to you. I like what Roche and with some help from Carney put together. So Patrick came up with a whole technology strategy for Roche, the medical equipment provider, and in that they thought through, well, what should we decentralize and what do we centralize, and then what we decentralize, then we need the right tools. We need a backbone that I think they use GEP actually, or a Cooper that you can look to have people engage, and you've got your categories in there, and you've got your catalogs and everything else, and make it easier for people to buy as they need. But then you've got this middle layer that you want to run quick sourcing events, and I think that's what the AI agents will start coming through and being able to do that. But you can pretty much decentralize that a reasonable amount. And at the top, you've got your top categories that really need some support in the global buying, in which case you do need to centralize that. So they thought through, how do we break this down, and how does the technology support each of those layers, which I thought was super interesting. Ricky, final comments from yourself?
Yeah, you're right. In fact, in the example you just mentioned, it was JP working with them. So we have seen that it is many a times a hybrid model, like Chris rightly said, you keep sowing. But in this particular example, a lot of repetitive things, and which the centralized team have put the policies, negotiation in place, and you decentralize the buying part with catalogs and automation and orchestration layer, but keep the core of the important strategic categories in terms of how do you comply, how the budget controls. So we have seen that there is a hybrid model that works probably well for most of the global clients.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, Chris, back to your point, there isn't a perfect structure, right? Otherwise, everyone would have it. And every organization is different, every team's are different. And we keep seeming to go from centralized, decentralized, and back again. So, Becky, thank you very much for your time and effort. A great introduction, great overview and input coming through. And Chris, as always, a pleasure. Very happy you got up at 4:30. Very much appreciate it. I think everyone else would have as well.
It's been a fun discussion. I should do it more often.
Yes. Thank you for inviting, Matt, and it was a good discussion.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Hi everybody out there, my name is Florian Former and I work for Bayer. The Sustainability Procurement Pledge is a crucial initiative for us as it represents a commitment to shape procurement as a profession and to address significant global challenges. What I do like in particular is the fact that it's done from procurement for procurement, which I think is a really cool thing because we can learn from each other and do better. So by prioritizing sustainability, we all over the world can influence entire supply chains, promote ethical practices, reduce environmental footprint, and foster social responsibility. This pledge empowers us to generate an impact that extends far beyond our individual roles and is making procurement a key player in transforming the world.